Hey everybody, before we begin today's video, I just wanted to let you know that if you want to download the source code for today's video, make sure to head on over to letsbuildthatapp.com and you can find the available source code right over here, so just click into that. In addition, we have a brand new course available called Maps with Directions and Google Places. I'm still putting it together, but basically, inside of this course, I'm going to show you how to create maps using MKMapKit, this library right here. And we're going to be drawing a lot of annotations on the map using local search and also other available APIs through Apple. Further down below, I'm going to show you how to create directions between two different locations. Again, this is very, very easy to do with the available APIs inside of Apple's SDK. And then further down below, I want to show you how to create some custom annotations as well as integrate Google Places SDK to find places inside of your local environment right over here. And then down below, we are going to show also the local photos. So if you're interested in this course right here, make sure to go check it out and add it into your cart right there. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with today's lesson right now. Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another excellent adventure in the letsbuildthatapp.com channel. I really hope you guys are doing well out there in the real world. Lately, I've been developing a lot of contract projects for a couple of different clients. And one topic that I would like to cover in today's video is the ability to use the preview panel in Xcode 11 just to make your life a lot easier and also to increase the efficiency of your development lifecycle. So how exactly does this work? Well, why don't I first talk about the application we'll be working on in this video, as well as maybe the next couple of lessons. So what we have here is basically a very long list view, right? We have a header somewhere up here that contains these elements. The header itself also has a horizontal collection view. And then this entire vertical list is also a collection view itself. So how exactly do we build out this entire project, right? Well, it's quite involved. So I want to show you the best way that I can build this out now using Xcode 11. So again, the main highlight that I want to show you is my new development process using the right side panel here. And you can see that the only thing that I need to render out my preview is this class that is subclassing the preview provider, which is something that is provided using the SwiftUI. So with all that being said, why don't I slowly walk you through step by step how I managed to build out this entire project right here. It's actually pretty easy and it's pretty fun to kind of see everything happening inside of the preview panel. Okay, let me go ahead and create a brand new project inside of Xcode 11. And just like always, we're gonna pretty much use the single view app for everything. I'm gonna call this the FB 2019_LBTA and make sure to just use language of Swift and user interface SwiftUI. We're not gonna be using a lot of SwiftUI, so you don't have to be afraid of not knowing that right now. Just create this project inside of your computer and you should be fine, hopefully. And we'll see how much I can get through in one single video. Hopefully you guys can see everything okay. Whenever you create a brand new project, you now have this canvas editor. You can hide it by clicking on that and show it just like so. Pretty easy stuff. And again, I really like using the preview inside of Xcode 11. Okay, now the first thing you want to do in order to run your application is to maybe hit this resume to see what your SwiftUI project kind of looks like. And you'll basically get this hello world here. Anytime you modify the text with 1, 2, 3, you'll get it to be reflected on the right side. So pretty easy, and I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with this process by now. The next thing I want to do is I actually want to develop this entire application using UIKit, right? And the way I'm going to do that is to create a brand new UIViewController class. And this guy, why don't we give it a excellent name of main controller. Import UIKit, obviously, we'll create our main controller here and UIViewController. Nothing new. I'm sure a lot of you guys have done this a billion times before. View didn't load. Why don't we set our view's background color to be something like yellow. And if you run your application right now, right, let's use the 11 Pro iPhone, which is this here right here. You will see that you get hello 123 instead. So the reason why this is happening is because inside of your Xcode 11 projects, you have this scene delegate file, and it's basically loading your content view right here inside of this hosting controller as your Windows root. We don't really want to do this with our UIKit applications. So let's say window .root view controller equals our main controller like that. And now we can run our project, and you'll see that your main controller in the yellow is going to show up instead. So again, make sure you make this one single change, and you can now run your UIKit applications just like this. Very easy stuff. Let's move on now by going back to our main controller, and let's talk a little bit about this preview pane in the back here. So here's the preview, right? I want to make sure that I'm developing using the preview because if I don't use the preview, I have to rerun my code again and again in the simulator, which is a little bit slow. The way I'm going to actually get the preview to show up is to try to click on here and click on the canvas. And you'll notice that it doesn't really pop up if you don't have a preview available, such as right here. So here is the preview. So let me show you how to do this inside of our main controller. It might seem a little bit tricky, but after you see the code, it's not that bad. First, you want to create a struct. Give it the name of main previews, or whatever you want to call this guy is okay. Just subclass the preview provider, which is going to show up once you import SwiftUI. So I'm just going to do that down here, SwiftUI and preview provider, just like that. All right, for this struct right here, you want to provide some kind of preview as a static var previews. You'll see it kind of show up in the autocomplete. Let's use some view, type this guy out correctly and say text and main preview. All right, with this now available inside of the SwiftUI, you can hit the build again. The error will go away. You can click on this guy, hit the canvas and hit it again like this. And then now hit the resume one more time. And you'll see main preview at this side. Once compiled correctly, you can make some changes now, and you'll see how fast it is to kind of see your new code in action right here. All right, now the next thing we want to do is to make sure that this preview, instead of using a standard SwiftUI text view, we want to display our main controller instead of here. That way, whenever I modify my controller to look something like this in the back, it'll just automatically change every time I type in new code. So the way I'm going to do this is rather simple. Instead of my main preview, you want to set up some kind of view that is able to render out a controller. So what exactly is this view? Well, I'm going to call this my container view. It doesn't matter what you call it, but you want to make sure to subclass the UI controller representable. This class is going to make sure that you can update something called a UIViewController. And so you have to provide this method, just provide it and remove the code inside of it, and you'll be fine. The more important method is called make UIViewController. So I know this is a lot of new code, but basically what you need to do is for the UIViewController that you want to render out inside of your preview, you want to give it the main controller. And you also want to modify this right here, the return type, to just be UIViewController. I find this change to be the easiest to kind of get things going here. And for this, for the controller, I'm going to return main controller, and all of this code is now able to compile correctly. Finally, to render out your container view, just replace the text view with your container view. And I'm going to hit Command Option P to resume the actual preview change. And now, instead of seeing the text, you'll have your main controller showing here. So because this is yellow, you can change that to red, and you'll see the change really quickly being reflected inside of the preview. If you're looking at the top, the white bar, and the bottom white bar, the reason why that's showing up is because for SwiftUI, just by default, it is going to take into account the safe areas. So to ignore it, just use this code right here, ignore safe area of all edges like that. Okay, this is looking pretty good. We have red and yellow, so good ketchup and mustard color scheme. And the next thing we want to talk about here is how exactly do we start rendering out this entire view inside of the preview here, right? Well, there's a lot going on here, so I might not be able to do this in one single video. The first thing I will probably take care of is rendering out a list inside of Swift UIKit inside of the preview panel. And the way to do this is pretty easy. You can use a table view controller. You can use whatever you want. So let's try to use a table view controller here and Command Option P to resume the preview. We should be able to see something on the right side, but I noticed that sometimes when you change the subclass, it doesn't exactly work right off the bat. So you might have to hit the play here, remove the red background, and you'll now see that you can actually play around with your preview by hitting the play right here. And these rows are pretty much belonging to your empty table view controller now. So I personally don't like to use table view controllers because it doesn't give me the ability to scroll horizontally. And that's a pretty big downside of a table view. So I am going to actually use a collection view controller by importing my LBTATools, which just makes our lives a lot easier. The way to import LBTATools is you can click on this guy right here and click on the project and use a Swift Package Manager. I'm going to refer to that as SPM from now on. I have my account logged in, so that's kind of why LBTATools is showing up like that. If you don't have it right here, you want to make sure to click next, and you want to use this repository right here. You want to copy that and you want to paste that inside of here. And it'll do the same thing. It's going to download this project. And currently it's at 1.0.12, so just install either that version or some version after that. You'll be good to go. So hit the finish, and now you have LBTATools available inside of your project. All right, so that looks good. Let's hit resume here, and let me just get a drink of water first. Okay, so what exactly is inside of this guy right here? Well, it should be your table view controller, which is this. And now that we have LBTATools, you can import LBTATools just like that. And again, the reason why I use LBTATools is because to render out a list is now going to be very easy. I need to just subclass my main controller as a list controller like this, provided with two generics, T and U. So what exactly is T and U? Well, T is my cell, so I'm going to say class, and this is my post cell. I'm going to use a post cell to render out all of these guys. So this is one individual post with a grid inside, and here's my second post right here. This post cell, let's use a list cell, and this guy, I'm going to use a string for now because that's going to be a little bit easier to explain. For these list cells, you have setup views, and you can say background color equals something like .red. Okay, with this list cell or this post cell, I'll fill out the first generic with this post cell, and U has to be whatever this guy is. So let's just use a string here. And then finally, what I can do is, I believe I have to say self.items equals hello, and let's say world, like that. All right, hit Command Option P or hit the resume button on the top right, and you'll see now your list controller with two elements, two post cells with a background of red. And the reason why that's happening is because of these two elements here. So you can say 1 and 2, and you'll see two more cells pop up right here. All right. As you can see, developing your code now with a preview is a lot faster compared to rerunning this code again and again inside of the simulator, right? That was always pretty problematic, and now for my client projects, I can just get things done a lot faster. Next thing I'll do is I'm going to say UI collection view delegate flow layout and provide some sizing here. So let's just say size for item at return a CG size of view frame width, and let's use 200. You'll see the cells, Command Option P to resume. This guy will kind of fire up right now. And you have 4 cells with the views width and also a height of 200, because that, that's pretty much what you specified here. Okay, now the last thing I'll do before I wrap up today's video is Let me kind of show you how to render out some of these elements inside of this red post cell. But before I do that, why don't I modify the collection views background color? I'm going to say background color equals init with the white of 0.9 and 1. And then for this, let's use a background color of white. This is going to make things a lot closer to this right here. And then maybe later on, I'll show you how to render out this Facebook header right here to make sure it goes away when you scroll up and down. First, why don't we get to this post cell here? So let's go to the post cell. And the first thing you want to render out are these elements right here. And you can do this in a lot of different ways. You can use a zip or a storyboard file or some kind of visual thing. You can use anchors and constraints. But the way I like to do this is to actually use UI stack views. And if you type out stack views normally, it's actually not that bad, but using LBTATools, you can stack things a lot easier. And the way I'm going to do this is to stack this top row right here as a horizontal stack view from left to right. And then inside of the right, we have a vertical from up to down. And then we have an entire vertical stack view with one element here, second, and this guy will be my third element. So you can kind of tell everything is placed inside of a grid-like system. And this takes a couple of different tries to actually render out. So what I'm going to do is let's just use a image view. LBTATools makes this constructor possible. So let's use a image view of background color of red. And let's say name label equals UI label. And this guy with LBTATools, we have this constructor as well. So this is my name label. And finally, let's go with a date label of whatever this guy is saying on the right side here. I believe it's text, and let's give it a Friday. So Friday at 11:11 a.m. Okay, with these three elements here, I'm just going to simply place it inside of this view somehow. But why don't I create my post text as well? So post text label equals some kind of UI label. So here is my post text, and that looks pretty good. So let's kind of pretend that we have these elements ready. I believe this needs a text. And the way I'm going to stack this is to use a vertical stack first. So with a vertical stack, you can just call a stack like that and provide it with a bunch of views. And why don't we say image view, and we can have the, let's see, post text label. I think that's what I need just to get things going here. And let's make sure this renders out correctly. You'll see that just by default, the image view is going to take up all of the space inside of your cell at the very top here. And then we have the label at the bottom. So if you want to change this, you want to give this image view a height instead. So just say with height. And this again comes from LBTATools. So just give it a height like that. And now the image view is showing up like so. All right, you do have to play around with this a couple of times to kind of get things correct. But these are just some of the basic rules of UI stack view. So hopefully you can follow these steps correctly. The next thing I will do is I'm going to place the name label and date label in a horizontal stack view with this image view here. So what I mean is I'm going to capture that with a hstack image view. And I believe I can just run this right now. It should look the same inside of my hstack, right? I can do this. So the hstack is going to contain the name label. And I believe we'll get this right here. So name label is on the right side with the name label here. And then I can also give this a width. So width is a value of 40. Okay, so this now makes the image view perfectly square like so. And then now for the name label, it's on the right side. You can also provide some spacing right here. So spacing of, let's give this a value of 8, and it'll kind of space out these elements here. For the name label, you can actually say stack of the name label and the date label like that. And you'll see your name label and date label kind of showing up like so. And then, that's pretty much how you stack things correctly inside of your cell right here. The last thing that you probably need is the image view grid. So just for example's sake, I'm going to say image view grid equals some kind of UI view. And let's give this a background color of yellow. And I think I'm going to lay this out and probably end today's lesson before it gets way too long. So the post text label is here. I'm going to say image view grid. And let's kind of run this really quickly here. I don't think we'll actually see the grid, or actually we'll see in the yellow right here. So that's pretty much how you lay out everything using the system of stacking. If you want to provide some padding for these values here, you can do that as well. So let's give this guy a padding. So I'm going to say pad left of 12, and then let's see, pad right of 12. And I'm actually padding the stack view right here. It might not be too obvious where these parentheses are ending, but it's basically this right here. And we have pad left and pad right. We can also pad the top as well if you wanted to do that. So pad top of 12. And now everything's going to be placed kind of correctly like that. If you want to give your entire vertical stack some spacing, you can just do it like this. Spacing of 8 or 12. I think that looks pretty good for today's example. I'm just going to leave it like that. And the last thing I will need to do is let's go ahead and modify the size right now, right? So previously I specified view width and 200. Let's give this a 300. You'll see that this is just going to magically change with the changes inside of your code. Again, the reason why you want to do this is every time you make a slight change, right, you don't want to restart your simulator and wait for it to run over and over. You can now just modify your code really quickly with a 400 and maybe a 250 to see exactly how tall your cells need to be. Some of the code inside of here, if you modify it, you can just see it directly inside of the right side preview. So this makes your job just a lot faster in terms of UIKit development. The preview isn't only helpful for SwiftUI, it's extremely helpful for any type of iOS development. Alright everybody, I think I'm going to wrap up the video right here before it gets too long. I feel like anything over 20 minutes is usually a little bit too much for one single video. So next lesson, I'm going to show you guys how to render out the grid of image views right over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is actually pretty easy using the list controller again inside of our application. If you want to download the source code for the entire lesson in today's video, make sure to head on over to letsbuildthatapp.com. You can find the available source code right over here on the right side. And while you're here, check out the rest of the available courses on the website. Again, brand new course with maps, with direction and Google Places. A really, really amazing course, and hopefully I can see you in the very first lesson there. That's gonna be it for today's video. Make sure to leave a thumbs up and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye bye guys.